Hi, this is 100 and 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Today, we are looking at To the Top. To the Top is a platforming racing game that will have you spinning in circles, jumping up on top of buildings, and catapulting yourself across a whole bunch of different type of levels. We're excited to review this one with you today. Our VR Gear game reviews cover as many aspects of the game as possible so that you can make an informed decision before you try or buy one of these VR titles. To the Top was a fun game that we played. It's an interesting title, and we think that you will have to decide if this one's right for you after we get through our review. So let's start on the review first with getting up and running with To the Top. You'll be able to find To the Top on the Steam store, inside of Viveport, and as part of the Viveport Infinity subscription, as well as on the PSVR and the Oculus store. It works for the Rift and the Rift S, but it does not work on the Quest or on the Go. This game is currently selling for $19.99. This game is a platforming game and a racing game. Your job is to beat the clock by moving from one spot to the next by pulling yourself or catapulting yourself across the level. Learning the game mechanics can take some time, and getting used to the controls before you get sick is definitely also a race against time. We had a challenge of playing the game long enough to get good and staying in the game long enough before we got too sick. But this game is definitely one that it's beat the clock, beat your previous score, and get to the end of the level as fast as possible. You'll play this game from the first-person perspective, and you won't see anything else besides the paws of your hands. You are some sort of cat-like creature that is pouncing from one spot to the next. And as you reach out with your paws, you'll see some sort of elastic-type arms that are connected to the paws and to your body that will help pull you toward your destination. But you'll play this game from the first-person perspective throughout the game. For theme and story, you're not going to find much of a story in this game, but there's definitely a platforming theme and a racing theme that you'll be experiencing. You'll try to better your scores, you'll try to collect gems as you go to up your scores, and you'll try to find new routes that are faster and take less time to get to the end of each level. As far as controls go, this game has some very basic controls, and maybe that's all you need for this type of game. But it is somewhat limiting because there isn't a lot that you can do in this game besides catapult yourself or pull yourself in a direction while flying across the level. To control your movement, all you need to do is simply aim and pull the trigger and pull your arms toward your body, and you will launch towards the destination. It's as simple as that. It would be nice to see additional controls, but this is what the developers gave us, and so a nice simple control set for To the Top. For music and sound, this game comes with some really interesting soundtracks, and during the tutorial you're able to hear a lot of city noise below you as you are moving across the tops of the buildings or climbing up walls. Each one of the levels has a unique soundtrack, and you're going to either love or hate the music because it is music that was produced decades ago that the game developers must have fallen in love with and wanted to expose all of the players to. Either way, there's a nice fun soundtrack in the background. You can hear the sound effects of yourself moving through the level, collecting points by grabbing the geodes, and climbing to the top. For player movement, you'll have to get used to this type of movement because you're pulling yourself forward through the level. It is not natural by any means. I can't think of any type of movement that you would experience in the real world that would resemble this. Perhaps being pulled behind a boat on water skis, or playing a game of tug of war that you lose time and time again to a really strong person. Not sure what this would resemble, but you are pulling yourself forward and you will see the world fly past you in your vision until you hit your destination. This type of movement can be jarring for some people, but this is how the game is set up. And so picking your destination, grabbing onto it, and pulling yourself toward it is how you'll make your way to the top. So for motion sickness, you'll experience every type of motion sickness that there is available to you in the world. You'll experience disorientation because you're seeing something that you're not feeling. You'll experience nausea because you are spinning around and moving from one spot to the other way faster than you normally would. Motion sickness seems to be a feature of this game, so if you're into motion sickness, this game is definitely for you. If you do have a stomach of steel, not abs of steel, but a stomach of steel that does not easily get motion sick, you could play this game and likely score one of the highest points out there. But we found it very difficult to stay in this game very long before becoming very sick from the type of player movement that's involved. For environment and immersion, this game did a really great job. You see the levels have a lot going on. There's a lot of different areas that you can move and interact with. And you get a sense that the game developers really wanted to create an expansive world for you to explore. As a result, the environment made it so that it was very immersive as you were playing. There's a lot to do, there's a lot to interact with, and making it to the top isn't something that's just handed to you. You gotta problem solve, and if you do it right, you'll make it to the top. As a result, challenging problems keep you in the game longer, they make the game more exciting and immersive and interactive, and so we felt like this game had a really great environment that really contributed to a high degree of immersion. All right, so now let's look at the overall scorecard for To the Top, starting with theme and story. We're giving this game a 7 out of 10 for theme and story. As far as the theme goes here, this platforming racing game did a great job at a unique way of implementing a platforming game. In normal gaming, platforming has to do with controller inputs, but this platforming game was very unique because in VR, you get to interact with your environment and propel yourself through the level. So the theme of platforming and racing, this game did a great job and we're giving it a 7 out of 10. For controls, we're giving this game a 7 out of 10. The simple controls that were easy to master were just right for this type of gameplay, and we had a great time interacting with the world through this control system as well as the player movement. So a 7 out of 10 for controls. For music and sound, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. That's a little bit above average. This is because the music in this game was prefabricated by other people decades ago, and the sound effects weren't anything special, but there was some good sound in the game, just not as impressive as some of the other titles that have some custom tracks and custom sound effects and a very prolific execution of very high quality audio. So this game has some room to improve in the audio department, but a 6 out of 10 for music and sound. For player movement, we're giving this game an 8 out of 10. Moving around in this game was a lot of fun, and it was a very unique way to make it from one spot to the next. We enjoyed moving around in this game, even though it made us a little sick, so an 8 out of 10 for player movement. Now for motion sickness, if you're sensitive to motion sickness, this game is going to make you sick. We're giving this game a 2 out of 10. That's a really low score. It's not the worst you can get, but it's a low score because of the way that the game has you moving around. The concept of the game, awesome. The execution of the game, awesome. But in VR, a game like this is going to make players sick. And so a 2 out of 10 for motion sickness. And finally, for environment and immersion, we're giving this game a 7 out of 10. This game did a wonderful job creating an expansive world that the players can interact with and move through and score points as they beat their time and collect the gems. We felt this was a really fun game to play. Minus the motion sickness aspects of it, we really thought this game was worthwhile. So if you don't get motion sick, you might want to try this one out. And now for the overall score for To the Top, we're giving this game a 6.2 out of 10. That's above average. A lot of the scores were well above average. The motion sickness score brought this one down quite a bit, but that can be unavoidable if you choose to have a game like this in VR. Overall, it was a great experience. If you don't get motion sick, this game is one you should definitely try out. This has been 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, so that you can be notified tomorrow when we release another VR game review. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.